Hello, and thank you for joining us for the very first session of Hospitality Distribution Chats. My name is Natalie Kimball, and I am super excited to welcome my friend, the icon, the legend, Chris Murdock. The crowd goes crazy. Hello, friend.
Hello. Thanks, Natalie. So good to be joining you today on your first.
The first, maybe the last.
See how this goes.
We'll see how it goes. So, here's the deal, Chris. We have had the opportunity not only to work together in our day jobs, but we also had the opportunity to serve on the executive committee together at HEDNA. So really quick, what does HEDNA even stand for? Because the focus here is about distribution, and I think it's a really important factor. It's even in your day job title. Like, what is HEDNA? What is distribution?
What is HEDNA? So HEDNA, Hotel Electronic Distribution Network Association. And, then to your second part to that question, what is distribution? This question has been asked to me for 15 years. And really, when you think about it, distribution and, my quick elevator pitch to someone who doesn't know any better is if you go online, you go to book a hotel, rates, inventory, that's, distribution is how that gets there. If you think about distribution now from our perspective and within the industry, it encompasses so much more now.
Yep.
You have, everything comes down to distribution, payments, any type of content.
Right.
It's all encompassing.
Well, and I feel like, for those of us who might have been around for a minute, for so long, we had to kind of advocate for this whole electronic distribution thing, which obviously is where HEDNA has such a huge footprint. And it has evolved into so many additional things because this is the only industry I've ever known. But my elevator pitch, like my similar thing is, well, how do you think a stapler gets on Amazon? It's a form of distribution, right? Like it's a piece of inventory that has a color and a size and it has components. A hotel is the same exact thing. How do you think a hotel room gets on brand.com? How do you think it gets on Expedia? How do you think it gets in a brochure of a catalog?
Well, exactly. And with an actual rate and inventory.
Right.
That represents exactly what the hotel has.
And making sure that it's available and that the customer's actually taken. Right. So and I think that's a part of, the one thing that as we set the stage for kind of how we're going to hopefully help educate people and make them a little bit more comfortable with this kind of distribution term in our little niche space. I mean, if you look through your Rolodex, and for those of you young kids who might not know what a Rolodex is, it's, I don't know, what you call it, contacts these days. But we did I remember my first Rolodex. I thought I'd actually made it when I had the very first one. But think about all the people with distribution in their title. And yet, what's the thing we hear? I don't understand distribution. How do those things coincide, right? Like we have entire departments that are spun up for hotels, for OTAs across the board that are focused on distribution. But how many times do people come up to us and go, I don't really understand distribution?
Right.
Should it be that complicated, or is it really that complicated?
I think here we go. I think the concept of distribution is not that complicated. Understanding how it all works. There are times, and I mean, within this industry, between the suppliers, so us on the hotel side and their vendors, the tech side, in attempts to make it as simple as possible, at times we created such a fragmented environment that a first glance at someone's distribution interface or path can send someone spiraling out of control just based on all the different paths that information can go. And I think that's just what causes it to seem more complicated than it is. When it
that's incredible insight, Chris. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that you've actually just put that in a really nice little package, because that's exactly what it is when we can get so in the weeds on anything, right? Like to drive a car. Well, I don't care about pistons and horsepower. Like I push a button and I go, or I put the clutch in and I turn it and I put it in neutral and I'm off. I don't need to understand the hows. And maybe that's really what distribution, because it's become kind of a catch-all term for anything related to rates, content, payments. People start to go, well, I don't understand it. But fundamentally, you do, because you understand the core thing. Now, all that behind the scenes stuff of the how, maybe that's like where there's that crossover and people get so confused because they go, oh, I don't understand it. It's like, well, I don't understand how a car runs either, but I know how to drive one.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I never really thought of it that way. And maybe that's the way to start to simplify. It's like, guys, don't get worried about the detail behind it. Understand the simplicity of the fact that you've got something to sell and it has to be distributed.
Right. And I mean, again, this is going to depend on the audience and who you're speaking with. I mean,
right.
At the same time, I think a simple definition can be provided to some levels and business units, when on the other hand, there are levels of detail that we fear. And when we go through things like when we did the state of distribution report, there's a fear that maybe some of that may be getting lost. And I think that is another to really pushing for the education and to define distribution in different areas that we want people to get involved.
Well, and that's okay. So that's an interesting thing too. Is HEDNA, to my understanding, has just over the last 2 years recently started publishing this state of distribution. So what is that? Is that available for everyone to read? Is it worth a read? Is there a high level summary? Like, what is the goal of what that report really is doing? Because if I look at it from the outside, I would think, oh, what a great way to be able to see what does distribution truly cost? Because that's something that I know as an industry we've been trying to get to, because it's varied across the board. But what is really that goal of that distribution report? And do you have maybe one or two takeaways from the most recent one that you can share?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and you can access it through the HEDNA website. There's a link for the state of distribution report. Even the most recent, I believe, is up now. There's different aspects of the report, but when it comes right down to it, and even most recently, we held a breakfast meeting with a group of consultants for HEDNA in launching the report, having their take, having them look through it as well. And it's really to provide insight into where's distribution heading. Are organizations spending money on distribution? Are they spending money on the technology side? Are they investing in the people resource or the operational resource behind distribution? Understanding, what is behind the scenes. You can have, 50 APIs that do work for you, but there are actual, there's an understanding of what that API is doing for you, or that interface is pushing out for you. Then I think that's where we've identified it and are working to see what we can do about even providing more, starting at base level education and then going up through different other advanced topics. But it's kind of highlighted.
Well, I like that you say people resource.
Yeah. There, and I hate.
I'm sorry, you're saying it highlighted what?
Well, going back to COVID, there was a drop in the people experience, understanding, knowledge, and coming back up after, as business and the world got back on its feet. It has highlighted that there may be a gap in that understanding of just the
Interesting.
actual.
So, so is that something that then that like HEDNA University then does as a that's part of the education? Then you kind of, because just based on what you're saying, it sounds like get the discovery, you get the report, make sure the consultants are aligned with it, and then it's, hey, how do we turn that into education?
And something that HEDNA, and so this is exactly the plan, Natalie, and we've worked over the past few months. So within this year, HEDNA has allocated funds, and we've gone into, we've purchased and are now subscribing to a learning management system. We are partnering, beginning to partner with other educational resources, facilities that offer their own distribution courses, and we're going to partner with them to have a platform for others to take it. We are very nearly ready and going to go. We're partnering with specific reasons, like educational folks that have resource and are ready to go with what they have within the consultant group. So we're right there. We've partnered with other associations and really beginning to open that door to education, whether it's sales or marketing or a director of revenue management that just wants to know the basics on how it works, or if you really need someone that needs to know, how do I get a negotiated rate on a GDS channel?
Right. Oh yeah, that's right.
We're really hoping to be able to, and we're getting ready to launch these different modules and education.
Oh, that's amazing, because that also goes back to what you initially said about this whole kind of complex or simplified. The question of how do I get a negotiated rate on the GDS is a very simple answer. Now, you can answer that, but do you need to understand the way that it works at a Hilton, at a Hyatt? No, like answer the question first, then go to your internal resources to kind of figure out, because maybe that's where that big breakdown is, that I don't understand distribution, is because we're trying to answer that simple question with the boxes and lines that it hits this system, then it goes over here, and then it goes over here, and then you got a load over here. That's not really what the question is. The fundamental is, how do I get a negotiated rate on the GDS, or even why?
Well, exactly. I've used that example recently because it's one of those things that, if you were to go back, I mean, I'm still, as a matter of fact, this is weird that this is still here, but still the GDS Pocket Reference Guide is still under my laptop.
Nice.
I mean, how, it's information like that there's lots of cases where that's not needed anymore, but when it is needed, that's what we want to ensure that organizations are looking at and investing
absolutely
in.
Well, and maybe that's the one other thing I'm thinking as a kind of a takeaway here too, is that there's this, this industry, when I became of age and was like, I want to go and be a professional and have a career. And I wasn't like, I know what I want to do. I want to be in distribution. Like, nobody says that. It's not like a thing.
Somehow. No, I get it. 100%.
Right. But it's like, but then at some point, those of us who've been doing this for a minute, we're going to be aging out. Like, I don't want to work forever. So there's that institutional knowledge that we have. How do you pass that on? And it sounds like through the modules and the education that HEDNA's putting together, that's that perfect kind of legacy baton pass of here, because it's important to understand why you got to a certain spot. Like, why do we call it an SGA? Why do we call it there's all these silly things that you kind of need to understand, but they're not going to fundamentally change the way that we do the future, but it still helps. And that stuff has to be documented, because us dinosaurs, we're not doing this forever.
That's the thing. And I mean, it's, I look at teams I've worked with and other hotel organizations, even those that are on the vendor side and tech side, it's my whole thought, and I think, have impressed upon the rest of the HEDNA board and the associations from that perspective is we really need to ensure that our group, the future leaders of HEDNA, are involved.
Yeah.
We're really educating folks on what distribution is. It's you get
That's
asked
awesome.
too many times, but it simply put, as we had put before, it's getting the product on the shelf at the right price.
That's exactly right. Right.
And then there's so many other aspects of it now. I mean, you need to be a tax lawyer to some extent. So it's.
I mean, I remember there was a time I used to look at contracts and I was like, oh, I feel comfortable reviewing these. Now I'm like,
Oh, I know.
We've gone from 1 page to 7. So I think I would close this out by saying, if there's one, I certainly have my takeaway, which I really think you put very, in a way that made sense to me, was this kind of complex versus simplified in the way that we talk about it. Is there any other kind of takeaway maybe regarding what HEDNA is doing or how people could get engaged with education, or what would you have our listeners as a kind of a takeaway?
What we've seen and kind of through discussions I've had and we've had through HEDNA, don't forget to invest in your distribution discipline, wherever that sits. For many, it's into the commercial business scope now. It may sit under sales and marketing, e-commerce. It may sit under revenue management. And keep in mind that as much as we are reliant and we're investing in technology, we need to keep on keeping up. Try to do not forget to invest in just the actual the people resource behind it.
I love that.
It is, and I mean, to help out with that, like I said, absolutely, HEDNA our arms are out in all different directions with our consultant group, other educational facilities, and schools, and single resources that we're putting together. So if there's any, we're open arms to accept any and all input that folks have, because it's.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great, Chris. And I think part of that, as you're saying that as well, continuing education is an important thing. You don't, with any licensed kind of industry, you're constantly going back and recertifying and upping your hours and doing training. And we don't really do that on our side. And this is a great resource to be able to do that, to make sure that you're staying on top of what's happening, can talk about the past, and then, investing in those people resources and the understanding. So that's a great takeaway. And I sincerely hope that anybody who, if you have been exposed to HEDNA or you haven't, either way, check out HEDNA.org is the website. It is a non-for-profit, and it is all about connecting hoteliers and technology providers and making solutions. And this wasn't meant to be a pitch of any kind. I just hold HEDNA very near and dear, and I adore Chris. So anything I can do to help promote the legacy that is HEDNA is always in the best interest of our industry. So thank you for joining, Chris. Thank you so much for your dedication to this thing we call distribution, for all the work that you've done, not just with HEDNA, but in the industry overall. You're a legend and icon, and it is an honor to call you friend. And we sincerely appreciate you being our opening headliner for Hospitality Distribution Chats.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Join us as we launch new episodes every month. We look forward to seeing you there.